The Crythian Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, and in all that time, no species had ever challenged their dominance. Their secret weapon was simple: the Pyraxian dragons, massive beasts capable of incinerating entire fleets with a single breath. When the Empire discovered humanity's small colony on the rim world of Arcturus VII, they expected nothing more than another easy conquest. Terran had been a simple mining engineer before the invasion. He had spent his days drilling through asteroids, extracting rare minerals that kept the colony alive. When the Crythian warships descended from the sky, he had tried to fight alongside his people. But humanity's primitive weapons were nothing against the Empire's technology. Within hours, the colony fell. The Crythians found the human resistance amusing. As punishment and entertainment, they decided to feed the survivors to their prized dragons in the grand arena of Crythios Prime. Terran watched from his cell as, one by one, his friends and neighbors were thrown into the pit. None lasted more than 30 seconds. When his turn came, Terran felt no fear, only rage. The arena stretched 300 meters across, carved from obsidian stone that had witnessed 1,000,000 deaths. 50,000 Crythians filled the stands, their chitinous bodies clicking with anticipation. At the far end of the pit, 7 massive dragons waited, their scales gleaming like molten metal under the artificial suns. Terran was shoved through the gate. He stumbled forward, wearing nothing but torn mining clothes and boots. The crowd roared with laughter. To them, he was just another piece of meat. The largest dragon stepped forward. Zira, the alpha, stood 15 meters tall with wings that could blot out the sky. Her amber eyes studied the human with ancient intelligence. She had killed thousands of prey animals over her 4-century lifespan. This tiny creature would be no different. She opened her massive jaws, preparing to unleash a torrent of fire that would reduce Terran to ash. But something made her pause. The human wasn't cowering. He wasn't running. He stood perfectly still, his hands clenched at his sides, staring directly into her eyes. Zira had never seen prey do that before. Terran's mind raced. He had studied xenobiology as a hobby, fascinated by the predators of different worlds. Dragons, he knew, were ambush hunters despite their size. They relied on fear to paralyze their prey. But Terran had learned something during his years in the asteroid mines. Drilling through rock in the silence of space, fear was a choice, and he chose rage instead. When Zira lunged forward, Terran didn't retreat. He charged straight toward her, releasing a primal scream that echoed off the arena walls. The sound was so unexpected, so filled with raw fury, that Zira actually flinched. In that split second of hesitation, Terran dove beneath her massive head and grabbed onto the ridge of scales along her neck. Zira reared back, trying to shake him off, but Terran's fingers found purchase in the gaps between her armor plates. Years of gripping drilling equipment in zero gravity had given him hands like steel vices. The other dragon circled, confused. This wasn't how prey behaved. Prey ran. Prey died quickly. This creature was fighting back with a ferocity they had never encountered. Zira thrashed violently, her tail smashing into the arena floor with enough force to crack the obsidian. But Terran held on, climbing higher up her neck. His muscles screamed in protest, but he refused to let go. He had watched his friends die. He had watched his home burn. And now he would make these monsters understand what humanity truly was. When he reached the base of Zira's skull, Terran found what he was looking for, a cluster of nerve endings visible beneath the thinner scales. In a move born of pure desperation, he drove his thumbs into the pressure point with all his strength. Zira's roar shook the entire arena. It wasn't a roar of aggression, but of pain. She crashed to the ground, momentarily stunned. Terran rolled clear, his body battered but unbroken. The crowd had gone silent. The other dragons approached cautiously now, their body language completely changed. They weren't advancing like predators anymore. They were circling like they would around a rival, wary and respectful. Terran stood in the center of the arena, his chest heaving, blood trickling from a dozen cuts. He stared down each dragon in turn, and not one would meet his gaze. They had finally understood what their Crythian masters had not. This human wasn't prey. He was an apex predator. Zira slowly rose to her feet, shaking her massive head. She looked at Terran with new eyes. In dragon culture, strength was the only language that mattered. This small creature had just proven he possessed more of it than any being she had ever encountered, not because of size or fire or claws, but because of something far more dangerous, an unbreakable will. She lowered her head in a gesture of respect. The other dragons followed suit. The Crithian Emperor stood in his viewing box, his mandibles clicking in confusion and rage. This was impossible. Dragons didn't bow to anything except strength, and this human had no right to command such respect. He ordered his guards to open the gates and release more dragons, twice as many as before. But when the new dragons entered the arena, Zyra and her pack positioned themselves between Terran and the newcomers. The Alpha Dragon released a warning roar that needed no translation. He is under our protection. What the Crithians didn't understand, what they could never understand, was that dragons weren't pets. They were warriors who respected only one thing: a worthy opponent. And in Terran they had found something they had never encountered in 3,000 years of Crithian rule. They had found an equal. Terran stood among the dragons, breathing hard but standing tall. He knew this wasn't over. The Empire would come for him again. But now he had allies. And more importantly, he had shown them the truth about humanity. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the fastest or the most advanced. But they possessed something that made them more dangerous than any weapon or any beast. They refused to accept their place in the natural order. When the galaxy said they were prey, humans became predators. When the universe said they should bow, humans stood defiant. The Crithian Empire had made a fatal mistake. They had tried to prove humanity's weakness by throwing a man to the dragons. Instead, they had just armed him with the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, and Terran was ready to teach them exactly what humanity was capable of when pushed too far.